which we've done. And yeah, so today we are having with us we have Cheyenne from joining us from Jalisco, Mexico. So hi, Cheyenne.
Hello.
Cheyenne is actually representing a company called Noise New Media, which is established in Nashville, Tennessee, is working primarily with selling tickets to fairs, concerts, festivals, rodeos, and more, with a combined volume of more than 10 million tickets annually, mostly within the US. Then also we have joining us Drew Cove from DigitalParc. He's a senior SEO manager based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, from US. Hi, Drew.
Hello.
Drew is representing DigitalParc. So it's DigitalParc is a results-driven web design and online marketing firm deeply focused on transforming websites, driving traffic, and growing revenue for their customers. And mainly they're working with smaller, medium-sized businesses. And we also have Jade Arenstein joining us from Adaptive & Co. and joining us physically from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hi, Jade.
Hello.
And Jade is representing and is VP of data at a company called Adaptive & Co. So Adaptive & Co. HQ is in Ireland, Dublin, but also they work within the US and South Africa. And so basically, Adaptive & Co. helps clients to unlock the value in their data to drive competitive advantage and accelerate growth. They are a data-driven marketing agency specializing in measurement and MarTech consulting, business intelligence, and performance marketing services. They help businesses across the globe drive and accelerate growth through the expert use of data, and some of their clients include Coca-Cola, Nikon, Hyatt, Citizen, and Tesco, amongst many others. So very much data-driven marketing agency, and I think this is a new world for everyone now. So I think a lot of agents are switching to be more data-driven. So happy to have you guys here. We're going to go. I'm going to quickly present about our agenda. So today we're going to talk, as the title of webinars says, we're going to go through the common mistakes which usually agencies make, which affects customer retention. Of course, we're going to share tips and strategies how to improve the retention of their customers. And of course, we're going to share some general tips how to improve and exceed the customer's perceived value of the work done. So without further ado, let's switch to the most common mistakes, actually, which are leading to poor customer retention. And it would be great to learn more from you guys. So Drew, what do you think about that in general? What do you think the biggest mistakes are made by the agencies?
Boy, yeah, I think the most, thanks again for having us all on. It's really fun to be able to help discuss this with a lot of people and kind of help avoid some of these mistakes. But yeah, a lot of the mistakes that I think I see is just communication right off the bat. Like it's very fundamental. A lot of people take it for granted, and a lot of people, sometimes people think it's effective, but I think the most important part is obviously just communication and kind of missing touch points with the clients, missing obviously anything that could be taken as a win or something that they might like to be apprised of, or just kind of going silent. It obviously gives a lot of clients uncertainty, and uncertainty is I guess in an agency's case is not really the most that's not giving anyone the benefit of the doubt, because they say, oh, what could they be up to? I wonder what they're doing there. So I mean, communication is just number one. Being able to make sure that you're in touch with the client, being sure you're in touch with what the plan is, what you're doing, and being sure that you're very, very forward about what you're doing. That's just one thing that I've certainly seen a lot of people that come to us. They don't get taken care of by some other agencies that they might have come from, and they want a bit more of a personal and in tune touch, and that's usually just the biggest thing that I certainly see.
And I think adding a bit to that, I think that what I understand from you, I think when the customer is reaching out to the agency, I think it's usually a very first sign, right, that you're doing something wrong when you have a call from the customer first, right?
Yeah, that's when the alarm bells go off. You gotta kind of stay in front of it, be proactive. That's one thing that I know I'm probably going to be saying a lot throughout this webinar, but being proactive and staying on top of things before things go bad. Because obviously marketing is not a straight linear path upwards. There's going to be drops, there's going to be fluctuations, and I think being in front of the client and obviously not trying to just pretend everything is just fine, but being in front of problems before they become bigger issues. That's your client's going to appreciate the communication that you're on top of things. You let them know, and most of all, you have a plan to deal with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What are your thoughts, Jade, on this one?
I completely agree with Drew. I think communication is super key. And I think adding to that, it's also really being able to truly understand your customer's business and their goals and objectives. I think often as agencies, we can get into the habit of just wanting to kick off, and you could kick off without a discovery, you could kick off without really truly understanding the beast that you're dealing with, especially when it comes to dealing with larger corporations that have multiple teams, multiple touch points, multiple consumers of the data, of the marketing. And it's really truly understanding what is this business trying to achieve, what keeps their CEO up at night, what is the marketing manager doing, what's the CMO doing, and how do you actually align all your activities to that. I think that's a way to, like, if you get that right, it's a way to sustain customers for a really long time. But if you get it wrong, I think it's a really quick way to lose the customer. And yeah, I think it's often overlooked, and a lot of the customers that come to us because they have really transactional relationships with the agencies, and they're actually looking for something deeper. They're looking for a partner to spar with, they're looking for a consultant, and they're looking for someone to ultimately drive growth for their business. And I think that the expectation has really changed in terms of what businesses expect from the agencies. And I think a large part of it is they really want someone that cares about their business just as much as they do, and someone that's really trying to drive their business forward.
I totally agree with that. And I think that very much matches what Drew just said. I think like communication, and I think like combining all those two together, like, knowing the business, planning very well. And then of course, communicating everything can, I think, tackle lots of mistakes, which could be made, in the early days. And I know that, I think Cheyenne can add more what I heard from previous times from Cheyenne. I think, I think that very much emphasis on the first days. Can you add a bit more on that? I think I very much like that approach.
Yeah, definitely. Something that we've recently been really focusing on within our agency is we read a book called Onboarding Matters, but it really is just from the very, very first interaction with a client, setting those expectations, building rapport with the client, and just letting them know like what to expect throughout the time working together has really helped improve our overall retention and really just the trust that the clients have in us. So kind of tapping into what everybody else was saying, just truly like always being fully transparent, communicating about every little piece of the process is very important.
I think that's all adding up very well. And I think it would be also nice to hear a bit more about like how you, Drew, so you mentioned a lot about the communication importance. Would be also great to tap a bit into your shoes, how that communication looks like, how do you guys try to be on top on the communication?
Yeah, and I guess the biggest thing too is, speaking in their language per se, and obviously not necessarily just like different languages actually being spoken, but our agency typically works with a lot of small businesses, a lot of medium-sized businesses that have where they don't necessarily have a marketing manager. Kind of anyone that I talk to that's kind of on the marketing level, a lot of times it's a CEO or president that is also the sales manager, is also just as also the lead tech person. I mean, they wear a lot of hats because that's kind of the name of the game with small business and everything. And we're pretty well accustomed to dealing with those types of clients and really interacting with them. And the biggest thing about that is, speaking to them in terms of what they know, and a lot of like what Jade said is to be very in tune with what your business need or what your client needs, and being in tune with what the business actually is. A lot of times early on in campaigns for us, it's me kind of learning the communication style and frankly, any of the marketing expertise that the person I'm working with has. And a lot of times it's zero, a lot of times it's a lot. So you kind of have to kind of walk that fine line between, all right, what does this person know and how can I explain to them something that they'll understand? How can I not just kind of throw numbers or throw metrics and just assume that or hope that they'll understand, but to say, all right, here's what you're looking at, here's what we're doing, and make sure that they can actually really, really grasp it, and to take away that, all right, this is a good thing, they're doing good work for us, and they're ultimately happy with their business success and the work that we're doing to help supplement that.
I love it, actually. I think it's very well said. I think the analogy of that, I think, is what I have experienced in my life also. Like sometimes when you hire an agency, or some other consultant, they just come in as as a big expert on the stage, and then they start bombarding you with like a lot of things which you don't know, and then you feel like, oh, that's God, who arrived there. But then you feel, I think, like very much disconnected from that. And I think what you just said is actually you come in and you're in a big different, like in the very, very different shoes actually there, and you're like, all right, tell me more about your business. I think that's very much complementary to what Jade said. That tell me more about your business, tell me more, how you operate, guys, what's your communication style. And I think that knowing the customer is actually a very great start of a relationship. And I think that very much adds to Cheyenne, what you just said, I think, about the onboarding. I think it all very much adds up. And maybe you can share a bit more about, especially the book, maybe which have inspired you. So maybe you can share a bit of a quick wins, what others could use from that onboarding, importance, and what could others do and apply within their business.
Yeah, just setting a client up before even the first onboarding call, sending out emails to them, just letting them know what to expect on the onboarding call, the process throughout working together is something that we are definitely honing in on now. And it has proven to really make the conversation go a lot smoother. And just prepare the client for, being able to hand off the things that we need in a timely manner so that we meet their deadlines, all of that.
Great. And Jade, I very much loved your idea about the roadmap. So I think you also expanded a bit more previously about the roadmap. That's very much important to set, what you're going to work at. I think you can tell a bit more about that, and I think you know it very well.
Sure. So I think, like, in line with understanding what is the business goal, what is the marketing goal, the next step is how do we all work together, so us and the client, to achieve it. I think most clients aren't ever going to hand over all the power to the agency and say, okay, please make me all this money that I need to make. It would always be a joint effort. So a roadmap and a project plan for us is absolutely key to success. So essentially, when we onboard a client, as Cheyenne said, like, it's very, very important to make like that first initial meeting really, really strong and set expectations from the get-go. So set our KPIs. What are we trying to achieve in line with your business goals? And then what are the different milestones on a quarterly, monthly, or weekly basis that we can achieve to get there? And just make that absolutely clear to everybody from the get-go. So the entire business, from like an agency side, should have access to that roadmap, and anyone that's working on the client should have access, and then the entire client side, who's our like points of contact, should have access. But it should be something that can be rolled up very, very easily into a dashboard, into a report, that we can all see exactly where we are going, how we're tracking, and that we actually are doing what we said we can do. I think it's very, very easy in the sales process to make big promises and like promise the world, basically, and then when it actually comes to the delivery of it, a lot of teams really seem to fall short and like kind of lose sight of the bigger picture that was initially sold. And I think that roadmap truly holds you accountable, and it makes sure that everyone is working in the exact same direction, and you have something to look back on as well. So when you're done with the project, you can actually see what you've achieved and like speak about that, and really, really show value to all stakeholders in the business, from anyone that's a practitioner to the CEO upwards. Yeah. So that's, for me, it's very passionate about.
I very much love that idea of a roadmap. I think, and why I like the roadmap, I think instead of like saying just a plan, I think the roadmap just actually very much focuses on the end goal, what you want to achieve, and it shows like clearly milestones or steps what you're going to take there. And I like that, you guys are sharing it with the customers, right? And they are fully aware of what's happening, what's going to happen tomorrow and day after. And I think that's also a bit of a transparency encouragement, I think. So I think from the mistakes part, I think we have covered, that what's very much important is actually communication, especially as basic as it sounds. I think it's very much important, and I totally agree with that. Then, of course, knowing your customer very well, understanding the business is also very much important. And the third point is actually like proper onboarding. So starting, with the first foot very strong. So actually you start with a clear set of actions, what you're going to do, what you're going to talk about, and of course, building a roadmap, which will show you where you're going together and how you're going to improve the work. That's great. So thanks for sharing, guys. And getting more into retention strategies, or I would say like even retention systems, what do you guys do and what do you think is very much important? It's like, we just moved from like the early, let's call early churn, issues, but I think the retention issues are also there. And I think there is plenty of great strategies, what you guys shared previously to myself. And I think it would be very much great to hear from that. So maybe let's start with Cheyenne now. And what do you think is your strength, and what do you think others should actually onboard with the retention strategies?
For us, being just very, very transparent of kind of like what Drew said, it's not always going to be uphill. There can be problems that arise, and just being able to communicate that with the client, being very transparent on those numbers, not just vanity metrics, things like that, but what really matters to the bottom line to the business, and just being open to have tough conversations if you need to, and being able to pivot strategies has been something that is really important to us in building trust with the clients, but also, being able to retain them because they do trust that we are looking out for the best interest in their business.
I agree. I'm very much, I think I'm of course a bit sided with that thing of transparency. I think this is what we do also with our business, so we enable our customers, meaning marketing agencies, to actually be transparent with the customers. But that was one of the main things why I decided also to start this business. I think because before that I also had marketing agency myself, and I noticed that transparency problem is usually there. Agencies struggle to actually be very much transparent with the customers. The customers pay money, they don't know what is going to happen for them, what happened, and usually it ends up with something like not very much tangible. And I think when the customers are fully in line what's being done, how they're going through the roadmap of actions, I think it's a crucial element. I agree with that as a previous marketing agency owner. Would be great also to hear, Jade, because you guys are very much data driven. So that's, I think, the point of data being shared. I think it's an obvious one, but something besides that.
Yeah, I think that really works with us is having a technical lead paired with a project manager on every single client. So I think what frustrates a lot of businesses, from like my own previous experience and like what I've heard from customers that have moved over to us, is that if they don't like to have a conversation with someone that they feel can't necessarily understand. And at Adaptive, we have a lot of very, very technical stakeholders that we deal with because of the realm of BI, data, and technology that we deal with. So it's really, really important to have that very strong technical lead, so a solution architect in our instance, paired with a project manager who keeps the whole project on track. So the concept of a roadmap is literally across every single client at Adaptive. It's like very, very critical to our how we operate essentially. And the tied to that project plan is one or multiple project. The tied to the roadmap is one or multiple project plans. And essentially that's something that is shared again with the client as well. So it's like really having the person that can speak to the deliverables of their project. So where are we tracking with it? Where are we doing in terms of the overall goal, in terms of where we're trying to get to? And then the project manager making sure that the whole program essentially runs on time. And we find that pairing really works well in terms of driving trust and really, really strong relationships with our customers. And I think, yeah, to Cheyenne's point, it really is about trust, transparency. I think a client always knows when you're lying or when you're trying to hide something, when you're not telling the truth. And like, you can only do it for so long and it will always come out, especially with the access to data that we have. So there really is no hiding anything. So it really is just owning up to mistakes when they happen, dealing with them, fixing them, making sure they never happen again, moving on. And just being like completely honest, transparent, as you would expect in a personal relationship. It's really important to carry that through to professional relationships as well.
Yeah, I like very much that what you said, having a couple of people. I think that's also while you're especially working with bigger organizations, I think usually with who you're talking with, it's usually very much specialists in the field also. And you're also a partner very much to them. So you actually need to know the language a lot and what to speak about. You need to very much back it up with data and having very technical background is crucial. And I think you mentioned a bit of that in complementary, but I think and I know that it's a main point for Drew, and I love that. I think it's usually overlooked, and sometimes people think that they do that. Can you mention that very simple thing, very simple tactic, and not even a tactic. I think it's a mandatory thing.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely something that we really at least when clients come to us from other agencies too, they really like the emphasis on knowing who to reach out to and knowing who to be in contact with. And a lot of times, like again, like I said earlier, like speaking the same language and being transparent, it's kind of my job to synthesize a lot of what our internal team does to be that kind of go-to person, because a lot of times people come from organizations that it's more of a ticket system, or like I think like Jade said earlier, it's like very transactional in its scope. And then they come to us and it's it's all about building relationships and being attentive to the client's needs and being attentive to what they can understand and what is really important to them in terms of what they want to hear. And that's just one thing that I know, at least in the early churn stages of like onboarding a client, and then really the 3 to 6 month mark is kind of where things either can really be solidified or things can fall off. And it doesn't matter how much good work you've done in the first 3 or 6 months, but if you don't show them that it's been making a difference, or be showing them that it's on its way to making a big difference. I know in SEO, it's certainly not a fast game for anyone that wants to partake in that. It's not immediate results, but to show that what you're doing is working and what you're going to be doing is going to compound on that and add context to everything that you're doing. So that's just one big thing that certainly our clients like, is they like the attentiveness, the quickness, and just being able to showcase that, all right, what we've been doing is working and it's helping your business at the most fundamental level. And like we say on our website too, just results driven. It's like we really care about, we want more leads. We want more people calling your phone. We want more people submitting form submissions, so you can take those and really deal with them and provide whatever service you're going to provide. So at the very bottom line, that's kind of all about that's kind of the biggest space to the relationship building that we can focus on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's a very good thing what he said, especially about SEO. I think for SEO, it's a very long game most of the time. And I think having a roadmap, having a long-term goal, where you're going, and because the results are building up gradually there. Yeah, and it's tons of efforts actually, happening without the result at the beginning, right? So it's very crucial to maintain that relationship, maintain the customer for a long time, to actually start showing the results. And you need to be very much proactive. You need to be very much communicative with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
To show those things, to make the customer still kind of engage and understand, and then he needs to understand that you're actually driving value, because if they're going to look for some kind of result out of SEO, it's not going to happen overnight, right? So it's not some PPC campaign what can run overnight. That's super great thing. So basically focusing on one point of contact, being very much data driven, having a very knowledgeable team to work with the customer, especially when the customer needs that. It's very mandatory. And I think transparency, what was mentioned, and I think overarching thing, like transparency, is again, I think, over and over repeating thing. What you guys are saying. So happy to hear that. And I would love, I think, also to go into a quick, some additional tips on how to actually exceed the value perceived by your customers. So what do you guys do? Or maybe you have some kind of ideas what others could apply with that. I know that we have one very interesting and very different idea, like not very technical. So let's leave that for the end. But let's start with you, Drew. What do you guys think could be a great thing to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it might be to a lot of people, it might come as just a very standard thing you do, and obviously very good that you do it. But just popping in with unexpected updates, and I think it just compounds upon everything that we talked about already. Being proactive, being very communicative and over communicative. It's just very, very important to pop in with little updates, and let's say leads spiked, or they, like in my case, a lot of times you're pushing for new keywords, right? Pushing for number one in a certain area, and let's say midway through the month or something between usual scheduled updates, something goes up to number one and it sticks there for a little bit. I'm gonna pop in with a little update saying, hey, just a quick thing, no action on your part. Just wanted to let you know that, hey, a lot of the work we're doing, it just put us to number one for this really important keyword for you. It's just making sure that you kind of put yourself out there, showcase the little wins, and obviously some wins are going to be bigger than others, but just popping in with any update, and it doesn't even have to be big too. It just, all right, we got this new page put together for you, XYZ, just insert whatever you do here. It kind of falls in line with being over communicative and showcasing that added value. Because I know, a client knows what they're getting, obviously, when you have an initial meeting and you go through onboarding, but to really go above and beyond what is technically stated in an email or a contract or something like that, I think it really makes people, sometimes in emails it might not show through that they're really impressed, but they'll be really impressed, and they'll want to work with you for a very long time. The more that you think about their business, or you think about their business as much as they do. And obviously with a lot of clients or a lot of different accounts, that can take a lot of work and a lot of time, but it's worth it to keep that. And it's one thing that we've noticed that just really keeps clients really, really happy with what we're doing, and what we're driving their business. And it really it incentivizes them to stick with us to see their business soar even further.
I love that. I think that again echoes very much, about what was already shared previously. I think it's a nice thing, and I think I love the idea of actually popping in with some small things, and I think that also makes sometimes the person also looking great in front of their manager. Maybe sometimes I think they can bring in those wins to their boss and say, like, look, we have a great win, like even it's a small one. I think that builds up all those small things. They always make a castle, I think. So that's a great one. And Jade, what are your opinions on what Drew just said? But I know that you also have something to top up on it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think it's so important to share wins. I think agencies often like fall into like just sometimes can be firefighting mode where you're just like dealing with issues. And I think that the wins really do need to be shouted about. So I think it does, as you said, make the key stakeholder always look brilliant when the agency does well. So it's like such a cool thing to share. The thing that we like to do, and I think it's a really cool benefit of an agency versus an in-market team, is that an in-house team rather, is that you have power in numbers. So like in our team, as an example, everyone is a specialist in what they do and they're super interested in it. And with what comes with that is everyone's constantly reading, they're researching, they're following thought leaders, and they're keeping up with what's going on in the industry, which I think we can all agree is a lot all the time. So I think probably 3 to 4 major things change a day at this rate. So it's really about keeping our clients informed without them having to ask for the information. So sharing that type of information with them, especially information that actually like deeply impacts either their business or their campaigns. So really like keeping them informed without them having to do that work for them. It's not a service that they would ever pay an agency for in most cases. And it's something that like we're doing anyway. So we just like to share it forward and give that information back to our clients. just via different methods of communication.
I love that, especially I think that what was also, I think, the starting point of Watergraph. We also decided to do that also very much worked. So there was things what we actually knew and got to know in some cases. We decided, okay, so we should also share those things. This is like basically free material for agencies. Also, like even like this, we got very great guys here to share a bit of a knowledge, what they apply in their agencies. It's a lot of proven tactics. So that's very great, also material for that. And I think the last bit, which is for me, actually, Cheyenne said that that's a very fun thing what they do, or funny thing. I don't know if you can call it, but I think it has a very great purpose for that. So can you share it with us one more time, for everyone's
Yeah, we have an account manager who I swear is just the master of like building rapport with clients. So he'll show up to like the first calls with a client dressed to match that customer's energies. For example, like if it's a rodeo or like a hunting show, he dresses to match their energy, which is kind of funny, but I do think it is very, very important to truly build rapport with a client. Pay attention to things that are important to them that are even outside of the business, because any agency, like for us, we're all digital ads. Any agency can run digital ads, maybe not as good as us, but truly building rapport, I think, is one of the biggest things with retaining clients. And yeah, it's just a bit different. I think it's the funniest thing, but the coolest thing whenever he does that. And clients love it. Like we get a lot of great feedback. So yeah.
I very much love that. I think I can, because when you just told me that, I just quickly imagined, a person like dressing that. But if I'm actually like, I don't know, a rodeo owner or something, I mean, it quickly wins, my heart and I think the business together. So I think that's a very good thing. So yeah, thank you for sharing, guys. And I think that was very much, in total, like very much valuable things said. So basically, starting with simple things as as mistakes made, so like communication issues, like not communicating enough with the customers, not meeting the deadlines, not doing what you promised previously. Secondly, I think very much important what Jade said, not understanding the business is very also a big problem, and I guess it's going to get bigger in the future, because you really need to understand the business, because you are actually a very important part of the business if you're working with especially lead generation and everything else. So you need to understand what you're selling, and also like actioning onto the plan, what actually Drew said, like actually making things happen, what you just promised is obviously important. And last but not least, I think the part of onboarding. So very much strongly looking at onboarding, like you need to start with the right foot on the time in the relations with your customers is a crucial element to avoid. So actually having the right actions in place, what you're going to expect, from the first meeting, what you're going to do, what's going to happen after one day or another. So I think those things were mentioned most in the first part of our session today, and of course on retention strategy part. So being proactive is very much important. That everyone needs to know and understand the thing what they're talking about. So being knowledgeable about the subject is very crucial. And of course, having a strong relationship with the customers is also important. And transparency was also voiced a lot. So I think overarching thing is, knowing your customer, having a plan in place, having a perfect onboarding, having a transparency in place. All those things most likely will assure that, you're going to have a very long time relationship with the customers. And sometimes, of course, dressing up in a way of your customers, look is not matching that. I guess not doing a mirror thing, but actually like matching their business can also, like even small things like that can add up to great relationship and start of it. And also besides of those, so having unexpected updates, a quick wins shared from you to the customer also are very much valuable things. And of course, last but not least thing is if you get to know some new things about the trends or market updates or something else, you just share that with your customers, share that with your peers, even sometimes competitors. I think that's also brings a lot of value to everyone, and of course increases your value. So I think starting with all those things will definitely improve the retention of your business, and I think you will be able also to become as great agencies as guys we had here. And also we have a Q&A session now, so you're also able, guys, to ask the question to myself, to Cheyenne, Jade, Drew, or even our VP marketing, Linas. So he's in the background, so you'll still see him very much quickly. So we're still keeping him as a secret now. But so also we have some chat happening in the beginning. So someone said, so actually it's Fred saying howdy, coming from northern Minnesota. So
all right, my neck of the woods. All right.
Yeah, exactly. And of course we have also a question also just shared. So Irina is asking us about, could you please share specific cases when you were about to lose a client and what you did to retain them? Thank you. So maybe someone wants to answer that as
I can share an example.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
So I mean, obviously things go wrong. And I think often what it boils down to is communication. I think that is where things go most wrong. So it's often a client thinks something might be going wrong when it's not necessarily, and that's often down to communication. So I think this instance was a poor communication situation. And essentially what we had to do is have a workshop to level set in terms of goals and alignment, and just understanding, first of all, what their view is and what is going on, what we can see on our side, and basically setting the expectations. And I think just having that type of a discussion where it's just open and honest, everything can be put on the table, and you can really truly see eye to eye. And then essentially you leave that meeting with a plan to build back the trust or correct whatever the issue might be. But I think it's very much admitting where you've gone wrong, not being defensive in that situation when the client is wanting to leave. Because I think what we all need to realize is that we are one agency of millions. New digital marketing agencies are popping up every single day. The competition is really, really tight. And the client pretty much has pickings of the entire market. So if you're not doing it for them, they're going to just go to someone else that will. So it's really, truly just being transparent, being honest, taking accountability where you've gone wrong and fixing what you've done wrong. And again, making sure it doesn't happen again. And really just coming up with a really good plan to make it work and sharing that plan with the clients. That's then their option to choose whether they want to continue with that plan, if they believe in it, and move forward accordingly. But I think that if you're able to just really just drop the ego, drop everything around, in terms of trying to defend what your side of things, and just be honest about what's going on, that's for us it's just a winning formula, I think, in terms of retaining clients. Of course, it does get to the point where if a client wants to leave, they're going to leave. And if they've made that decision, it's done. There's not too much you can do, but there is definitely that point where you can still save the relationship. And I think it's just through pure honesty and a good plan.
That's a great answer. Do you have something to add, Cheyenne or Drew?
Boy, now nothing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just really in line with what Jade said. It's all about just being open in communication.
Yeah, that was basically going to be my ad too. Just anything that a lot of times the perceptions, the discrepancy that arises usually between our clients that are, if we have clients that are looking to leave, it's just kind of a growing chasm between what is actually being done and the reality, or I guess the perceived reality of what's happening. Because usually things are going surprisingly well, which is sometimes that's why when it catches you out of the blue, you say, "Oh my gosh, this client is seemingly not happy with what we're doing," and then it's just kind of a reset. It's a note to say, okay, where did some of this communication go wrong? Find ways to rectify it and make sure that in most cases, the relationship is repaired with that kind of attentiveness to saying, okay, the way we were communicating before wasn't really working, and kind of taking those steps to change it and make that the standard, obviously going forward for that client.
And I think that also, adding to the topic, I think what I can say from our type of business, which is kind of not agency, we're still like, a software company, but we also deal with the customers. And we also, when those things appear, we also like to do that. And I think the most important thing what I can add is when you have something not working, I think we always try to analyze what was wrong there and what kind of a new habit we can, introduce to avoid the same thing going and happening again, right? So like when the time goes by, usually you will catch a lot of things and you're able to integrate new strategies or systems within your regular operations, how to make less of those frictions in the operation. So thank you for the question, first of all, of course, Irina, and of course, secondly, thanks guys for very great answers, and I think that will help on that. And then we have another question, which was asked by anonymous attendee. So I'm trying to understand the question. So what are the best answer when you offer a new project to customer and they respond with why did we do this beforehand? So I think what the person is trying to ask, I think when you offer a new project or suggesting something, do additionally, and they ask why we haven't been doing that previously. So I don't know, maybe you can mention that a bit, what you guys would do on this kind of situation. Maybe Drew. I think you were speaking a bit of adding some new bits on the progress.
Yeah, one thing too that especially with like smaller agency and we have a lot of clients and we're able to see a lot of different parts of a lot of different industries. So obviously we don't obviously as a marketing agency we know a lot about what our business does or what our client's business does, but sometimes we can learn something from what a client in another industry is going through to adapt our strategy or adapt a content plan, things like that for SEO specifically. I know as Google keeps changing, that's one big thing that I know is like the algorithm just shifting over time and having major updates throughout the algorithm updates throughout the year. That's usually the biggest thing for why we change things and why it wouldn't have been done before because, all right, this wouldn't have worked before. This is only really a new adaptation to what Google is looking for in terms of ranking well for your website. But a lot of times, yeah, it is just a lot of dealing with what projects you can take on at a time, and not every single project might not work simultaneously, if that makes sense. So we're gonna try what we know works at first, and a lot of times, especially with SEO, there's no guarantees that the same strategies are going to work for every single client. And that's just one of the most difficult things about SEO. So if anyone's in SEO, I'm sure you kind of understand why that is such an issue, because the tried and true methods aren't exceptionally tried and true for every case use. So sometimes we have to pivot off of what has traditionally worked to something different for some clients. And it is a difficult thing to address because it obviously, you set a plan in place and ideally it works for whatever case you're trying to get it to rank for, to drive more business. But it is just a kind of using what tool in your tool belt you think is best at the time, and once one doesn't work, kind of switching from a hammer to a drill, basically.
Yeah, I think that's usually what happens. Sometimes you just can't foresee the future. What will be the change in the algorithm or the tech stack. I mean, we just got AI. Like nearly a year ago, and it just changed everything dramatically. And I think we can see that happening in every new platform and tool which we're using, and I think that's very much important to be aware about that. So I think even applying the simple things, like again communicating that with the customers, saying them why you have a new project coming up, why you're suggesting that, and also sharing the knowledge which you have, what Jade said. I think it's the elements which will give you a response to the customer. I think that's a good thing happening. So don't be afraid of be transparent. So yeah, and we also have Fred saying that thank you guys. You all did a wonderful job on touchy subject that most agents do not want to discuss. So yeah, thank you, Fred, for that. And let's take one last answer. I think it's question, which is very much related with our product. I think what kind of advice would you give on how to report to clients effectively to demonstrate your real value as an agency? So would be also great to hear. What do you guys think about it?
I'll say for me, I love Watergraph because y'all do allow us to give little descriptions on what each like metric means on the dashboard, which is very, very handy. Because yeah, you can say like, you know, those trigger terms like cost per click, CPM, things like that. But whenever you're able to put the description on the board and actually explain to a client in layman terms what it means, I think is very helpful. Of course, having a call with a client and going through the data with them is important. But yeah, I really love that about Watergraph is you can actually like spell it out what everything means on there.
Yeah, thanks for that. And what do you guys do for reporting also? Like what's other agents, you know, approach to reporting and how to actually effectively demonstrate the value?
I think for us, what's really important is showing the right data set to the right stakeholder. So not overwhelming someone that's not technical with too much technical information that they don't understand, and making sure that all the goals, KPIs, and objectives are present within the dashboard. So that if the CEO needs a view of what's going on, like he would care about, or she would care about what's driving revenue, how much is revenue up, what is the return on the ad spend, like that type of information. Whereas the marketing team would care much more about like what is driving the performance. So like what campaigns are performing well, which creatives are performing well, what keywords are performing. So it's just about like making sure that the data is at the right level of granularity for the user that's going to be using the dashboard, and really like thinking about what message you're trying to send through the dashboard. So I think often from a dashboarding perspective, we could make the mistake of not really thinking about who's using it and why they're using it. And it's very, very important to keep that top of mind at all times. So really like asking questions of the data, segmenting it before you actually start building the dashboard, and really understanding like what is the purpose and keeping that purpose in mind at all times. I think often we get excited, we get a large set of data, and it's just like gets splattered onto a dashboard. And I think it's a big mistake, because it just, first of all, it exposes a lot of issues that aren't actually issues, but they're perceived as it, because it causes confusion. But secondly, it just becomes completely unuseful. And I think a dashboard really is one of the key ways of communicating with the customer without actually having to speak. So it needs to have all the information that a person needs to see on it. And yeah, so it's something that we very much build bespoke for our clients based on their individual requirements. But yeah, it's definitely, and I think what Cheyenne said, like having that insight tied to the dashboard and tied to the data is really, really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think like, you know, adjusting the dashboard to the viewer and the goal, I think is super important. Not just having it, you know, just one template, what you just apply to thousands of customers, you know, all over the same. Sometimes it works, but of course sometimes it doesn't. And I think just again knowing your customer very well, it just the answer, I guess. What about you, Drew?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to. It's hard not to echo what's already been said too, but yeah, just being able to present the right information to the right stakeholders in the way they can understand it. So obviously, as DigitalParc is a user of Watergraph, we use that for all of our clients' reports. But the ability to like even just title things differently. We'll have some of the same metrics for some of our clients, and we'll just have to call it a different thing or call it some different, because from what we found is that a lot of people's internal terminology is just very, very different. Even like something as simple as a win rate is different for tons of different clients. So it's important to be able to do that, and the real time aspect. Obviously, as a a marketing agency that has a lot of small business clients where a lot of people are actively doing the work or the services that they provide in a given workday. When we send our reports at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, they're not going to see it right then. And it's nice to be able to have live data to say, okay, let's say they lost the email in their inbox that I sent on the Tuesday for 10 days. They can go back and not only see whatever the last bit of data was for the last 30 days, but they can see what it was last month. They can interact with it. I think interactivity is the biggest part. It gives clients a feeling that they have a lot of control over the data they're seeing. And again, that's just transparency
They do, actually.
too. Exactly. They can say, all right, I'm maybe things aren't maybe numbers are down this month, and they say, oh, I'm going to get curious and look back at the last 6 months or the last year. I've had a lot of clients. Exactly. I've had so many different clients send me emails sometimes based on data that I didn't just send, but because they looked at it in comparison to a lot of other data, saying, oh wow, things are really, really like, I didn't really think I was going to look back at some of this data, but I just kind of easily looked back, and we're actually doing a lot better than we thought we were, or not we thought we were, but things are getting much better over a longer period of time that I didn't even necessarily point out in a given message. But it is nice that they have control over what they're seeing, and I'm kind of just being a facilitator of data in a lot of that sense.
Great answer. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, and yeah, I just see one question popped up right now. So, what's the best approach on clients who don't communicate their opinions on certain deliverables rather than deciding to leave due to their dissatisfaction? Let's try to answer that quickly. So basically, I think it's more about, like, you delivered something, they haven't come and did a comment on it, and they just left, meaning as a customer. I think even without you guys answering, I think it was nearly answered, I think, during the session itself. I think the crucial element, I think, is building a relationship at first. In my opinion, I think it looks like that the relationship wasn't there at the beginning, and I think it wasn't agreed what you want to deliver, I think, and what kind of a goals you were tackling. And I think if the relationship part is very strong at the beginning, I think you barely will have that happening, as a ghost. Of course, from time to time it can happen, like very rarely, but I think, yeah, if it happens occasionally, I think there's a problem bit of the things what we actually covered at the beginning. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree on that. And I think often, like, throughout my career, I've like come across lots of, like, especially from an account management side, saying, I said that, I don't know why they didn't hear it, type of thing. And I think it's really, like, to Cheyenne's point, it's just like building that rapport with the client. But I think a big part of that is understanding how people like to be communicated with. So I think as a marketing agency, you could really fall prey to sending too much communication sometimes. So again, like to my earlier points, is if a dashboard has too much information, it's like much less useful than something that has maybe too little in some cases. But it's really, like, I think we could get into the habit of, like, over communicating, and also not, like, focusing on communicating what's actually important. And I think often what I've seen throughout, like, working, like, in a professional sense, is that what the important stuff pretty much gets lost in the noise, if we can call it that. And it's like really trying to understand from our client, like, do they like to, first of all, have information sent over an email? Would they prefer to hear it in a call? Do they give better feedback verbally? Do they give better feedback in writing? Do they need to maybe get it in a spreadsheet? Like, it depends on, like, really how they like to be communicated with. And I think it's a really good question to ask in the onboarding phase, is like, what do you respond well to as far as communication? Like, what don't you like? What did your previous agency do that really bugged you? What did they do that, like, you enjoyed? And I think it's just that honest conversation. And I think it's those type of questions people actually like to be asked. It's a really awkward thing to ask, but it's actually, like, I've always found the response to be favorable. And it's just so much better just to know than not know, and then do the things that just annoy them, and then you just get no response and they leave. Like, I think as you said, Justas, it's like very much it's a relationship problem that happens.
Yeah.
The chances are they're leaving for something else, not just that deliverable, but it's about really truly understanding them and what, like, makes them tick as far as communication goes.
Actually, I love very much what you just said. Actually, it was like out of the context, but I think you see, what you just said is actually asking the question about like what he did like with the previous agency and what he didn't. I think it's actually a very, very important thing. I think we can all apply that. I think it just actually sets a lot of great things on the paper. I think when you start the conversation, you can just clearly understand what were the mistakes made previously, why they decided to leave. That's a super great thing. Super great thing. Thank you, Jade, for that. Thank you. And yeah, Cheyenne, maybe you want to add something, or what do you think?
I'm a firm believer in the relationship building. So I think really just what Jade said, it seems to be a relationship problem if there's a lack of communication on even the client part. Like I think they're saying the client is not responding to them about what the issue is. That would lead me to believe like you do just need to build that rapport from the beginning and understanding how to communicate with that client. I think would resolve that issue of them just ghosting.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's hard to answer the question because when you have a very great fundamentals within your business, it's very like sometimes it's like building a relationship can sound like as a I don't know, it's obvious, right? We just have that, and every customer we onboard very carefully. We build things in place, we do a proper report with them, we know how to work with them, and of course for some it might be great things what's been shared. And yeah, so I have the last thing shared is less of the question. So someone is asking, are we considering making this a podcast sometime? Yeah, it's a good suggestion. I actually haven't thought about it. So thanks for a suggestion. And yeah, it was also mentioned that Jade, by the way, such great insights. So yeah, so thank you guys very much for sharing the insights. We have not so much time left. So here now I want to actually introduce our VP Marketing, Linas, who actually made all of this webinar happen and also, making all the work done. And of course, he will do a quick summary of the research which we made. And of course, there's going to be some correlation with what we just spoke about. So it's very interesting that a lot of things are being shared by others. So Lene, please join and share. And thank you, of course, Drew, Cheyenne, Jade, for taking the time and actually sharing those great insights.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Yeah, really enjoyed listening to all of you. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the webinar. We obviously had three great professionals from leading marketing agencies speaking, but we've also asked dozens more about client retention mistakes before the webinar, and really echoing a lot of the things that were said. The key themes that we've identified for the retention mistakes are the communication issues. So as Drew mentioned previously and a few others, missing touch points with the clients, not sharing wins, going silent, and transactional relationships. I mean, all really harm the retention. And our key themes would be the poor expectation management, lack of expertise and business understanding, team changes and poor processes, lack of productivity and innovation, and lack of clear reporting as well. Again, echoing a lot of the things that were said. And by the way, after this session, I will be following up with everyone and will share a more in-depth white paper with more exact quotes and more insights from a lot more agencies that will give you practical tips on improving client retention and client retention mistakes as well. And to quickly summarize on the client retention strategies at a very high level is communicating effectively, understanding client needs. Again, really understanding your clients was mentioned, setting and managing expectations. And obviously, at the end of the day, as Jade mentioned, you need to be really good at what you're doing. You need to be a specialist of your craft. and you need to deliver real value. I mean, there's no other way around it. There are so many agencies out there. The competition is fierce, so you need to deliver the value and really demonstrate the results clearly and transparently as well, but also not overwhelmed by data. And also being strategic, and I guess it comes to the understanding of the business as well, but not just tactical, picking some vanity KPIs and optimizing for vanity KPIs, but really being a strategic business partner and building strong relationships as well. And yeah, very quickly, a bit about Watergraph. I know that we didn't really explain very well what we do, but effective marketing performance monitoring is really key to deliver more value to your clients. And obviously, it's important to quickly spot issues and opportunities. And Watergraph does help to do that easily. And a second piece of what we do is effective client reporting as well. Basically, not only want to spot opportunities and issues quickly, but you also want to demonstrate that value, and you don't want to spend hours building the reports. So we do help to save a ton of time and make your agency more efficient. So that's effectively what we do, and I will again be following up with everyone individually after the webinar. I asking for your feedback. I hope you enjoyed the session, and we will have a lot more of these sessions in the future. So I hope to see you next time, and wait for my message with that white paper with more tips.
Thank you, guys. So that's it. And yeah, I'm talking now from the background, but yeah, it was great insights shared. So have a great rest of the day, all of you, and speak